Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Hope you've had a great Friday. I'm so late getting this out tonight. And part of the reason is I just couldn't get in a good rhythm today. And so I go to take my afternoon medicines and I look, there's my little ADHD pill in the morning slot that somehow I missed. It explains everything. I want to say a big thank you to everybody for the super chats, the kind words, the buy me a coffees, the donations. Appreciate that very much. I put it in the little savings account for future travel, to go to cases, or just equipment here in the studio, and also the subscriptions that I keep every month just to keep this going the way it does. So thank you so much. Your generosity is appreciated. If you want to support the podcast, a really easy way is just to click that mouse and hit subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Like the video, share it with your friends. If you want notifications, hit the little bell. It'll let you know when I upload new content. Music fact of the day, Friday, February 9th, when I'm recording this, actually marks 60 years since the Beatles performed on The Ed Sullivan Show. 73 million people are believed to have tuned in. That was a record at the time, and it was 40% of the U.S. population. My mom was one of those. 728 lucky people got to sit in the audience and see it live. The network received over 50,000 requests for tickets. Tomorrow, I will be updating on the Adam Montgomery trial. Today, Kayla Montgomery, his still wife, legally was on the stand, and it was very difficult testimony. I haven't finished it yet. I had to kind of click off. It's just very graphic. Tomorrow, I will tone that down. Again, we'll post the link in the description for those of you that want to hear all of the testimony. We'll definitely tell the story without getting too deep into the really terrible things that was done to Harmony. Also, this weekend, I'm going to start working on getting these wiretaps up in a playlist on the YouTube page. I just got a bunch of new pre-bump tapes today. I'm going to put those there as well. They'll all be in order, cleaned up the audio, put some subtitles on there. Still in the process of doing it, but I'm going to at least start that playlist this weekend. That way you can listen to these calls for yourself. A lot of people like just hearing a summary of them. Some people don't like listening to wiretaps or recorded calls. It's so hard at times. Sometimes the audio is not great. One person's louder than the other. But this way, if you've been watching these episodes, you can just go in and you kind of know what the call is going to be about, but you can really focus on tones of voices and everything else like that. On this episode, kind of doing things a little differently. What I've spent a lot of the day doing is going back on Google to the week and a half after Sigfredo's arrest and pulling articles as they were posted when news broke. So I'll kind of stop at times and talk about what was in the news at this point in the wiretap calls. I think it sort of gives a good insight into what the Adelsons and what Katie were hearing through the media, as well as people that they all knew. Once that affidavit was released and the Adelsons were named, I mean, it was out there. So that's how we're going to do this. We left off on May 31st, 2016. That's 4 days after Sigfredo's arrest, and that's where we're going to pick back up today. Let's look at some of the news that was being released that week so we can put things into context just as we move through these next few calls. WTXL.com did a story about Sigfredo. It says Tallahassee police said they would not release any other details in the Dan Markel investigation or Garcia's arrest. Documents related to the case were sealed by a judge. They did say Garcia's arrest was related to the Markel case. Sigfredo's attorney, Jim Lewis, we went over the call with him and Katie on the last episode. He also put out a statement on May 31st. It said, "My client is absolutely maintaining his innocence. He will be pleading not guilty. He's denying any involvement with this murder there in Tallahassee. And I would just ask everyone there, please withhold judgment, to follow the law and presume his innocence. He has maintained his innocence, and I am hopeful that once all of the evidence comes out, everyone will see he is certainly not guilty of these charges. Absolutely, he is maintaining his innocence in this particular case, and that is exactly what we are going with. They had absolutely nothing to do with this very unfortunate homicide there in Tallahassee, and we will get our day in court." The article goes on to explain that the courts declined to take the case for the cocaine possession. The reason is Ultimately, it would speed up the extradition to Tallahassee from Miami, and it was the least of his worries anyway. Also, on May 31st, there is a call between Katie and Sigfredo's lawyer. His name is Jim Lewis, and I'm going to tell you guys, this lawyer is over her. Katie's just flipping out internally, and it shows. Another thing that I notice in these calls with the attorney that she doesn't do in calls with anybody else is she repeats herself a lot with him, or she repeats things he says. I think it's nerves. It's just not something that we've seen so far. Katie calls. Mr. Lewis is just like, yes. Katie says, I wanted to get the information, and then you got off the phone with my brother, right? Because I want to make sure it was okay to put his names on all that. Katie says he's telling me to be prepared and all that. And the attorney says, yes, look, we need to be prepared. Nobody's saying you're going to be arrested, but we need to be prepared in case you do. Katie's just mumbling, and he says, I know you don't want to hear that, but it's my job to make sure we're covered under any circumstances. Katie says, all right. He asks if she's ready. He's giving her a password to Sigfredo's account. He gives the password, which is Thunder305. Don't go hacking his old stuff, y'all. Katie said, that's what I figured. He said the pay code ATM number is 144. And then she says, what's his sign in? He says, well, I don't know the email. You didn't give me that. Katie exhales just in a very exasperated way. And he says, well, I'm going back to see him because I have to take him these powers of attorney. Okay, so what is it you're looking for? The sign-in email? Katie says, yes. She said, I don't know which email he used for his card. And also, are you going to be able to grab I cannot tell what she says here, y'all. I tried for 10 minutes and he said no. She says, I think I'll be able to see you earlier. And he says, well, I don't know that I'm going to be able to see you earlier. Katie says, no, like 3. He says, I don't know that I'll be out of court for sure. He said, you better say 4 to be safe. Otherwise, you'll be sitting here waiting. He said, I'm not going to tell you to come sit while I'm over here in court. I have hearings that start at 1:30, but it's a restraining order. God knows how long it'll be before I get out of there. Katie says, oh, okay. So 4 o'clock. He says, okay. He says, so the sign-in email. Again, I told him to go ahead and voucher out his property to you. So he's in the process of doing that now. So whatever his card and stuff, I guess you'll get that when he vouchers it out to you. But typically it takes 2 to 3 days. Katie says, oh, 2 to 3 days? He says, yeah. And she says, so vouchers, it takes 2 to 3 days for me to get his property, right? He says, right. Katie asks, where do I pick that up? The jail? He says, yeah, at the jail. Then she says, how would I know if there's like a warrant for me? I wouldn't know till he interrupts and he says, there's not, okay? The person I was speaking with on the phone, he's still up in Tallahassee. Isom. That's Detective Isom, who we know interviewed Wendy on the day Dan was shot. Detective Isom is still up there, and I'm giving him the name because I want these people not calling me about you anymore. I'm giving him the name of this other lawyer to talk to because I don't want to talk to them anymore about you, okay? Katie says, oh, you don't want to talk to me anymore? He says, with them, with the cops. It's a conflict. That's why I say you need to have this other lawyer. I don't want to put myself in a problem here. Katie says, oh, okay, that's the name you gave me, right? He says, that's the name you're going to meet at 4 o'clock. Tom Morse. So she asks his name again. He tells her, remember, I gave you his name and phone number the other day? She asked if he can give her the number again, and so he does. She said, remember when we discussed, would you try, everybody that was texting me? Can you mention that to him? And he says, mention what? Remember that person that texted me? And he says, yes. She asked if he can mention that to this other lawyer. And he says, yeah. Mention it to who? To Tom? Oh, he knows that. I told him. Katie said, oh, he knows. Oh, okay. He says, he's not crazy about that, but I told him how we handled it. You know, that was the best way. This is where he's talking, by the way, about the conversation that Katie had with Rivera's girlfriend, Jessica. She wanted to meet up with Katie. Katie was freaking out. She told her to stop freaking out. And then Katie had Sigfredo's lawyer call her. And then Jessica flipped out and was like, why did the lawyer call me? So I just wanted to tell you guys that so it's not confusing. Katie asks if this new lawyer knows that she's ignoring everybody because and then he interrupts and says, no, I told him you have to ignore everybody. You can't be talking because we don't know who's recorded, who's working with the police. And we explained that to Jessica. I told him I talked to her personally about that. And he's worried they're going to think you're doing something. Katie says, exactly. He says, all we can do is tell them that you're not, and I can't have you talking to people. Katie says, and then would you be able to find out if somebody, because I remember now, I'm scared about my family's safety. Katie is stumbling through all of this. And then she says, I don't know what I just said. Are you going to be able to find out, are you going to keep speaking to her, or that was it? I don't plan on talking to her unless she calls me. I gave her my number. I don't think there's any good to come out of that. Katie says, my brother's worried about everybody else's safety. So the attorney says, like I said, I'll do these powers of attorney. I'll ask them for a sign-in email for the account because we don't know when Leon County is coming to get him. But it could be as early as this afternoon. Katie says, oh, they might pick him up today. He says they might pick him up today. Exactly. I don't know. They won't tell us for security reasons. Katie says, okay, well, I'll meet with you. Then I'll meet with the other lawyer. And if I'm able to find out everything, what's better? Take out the money or transfer it into my account? So the attorney's like, what? He repeats it. And he says he would take the money out and keep it with her, or give it to a family member. That's the smartest thing. Then she asked, what about her bank account? And he says, I don't think you have to worry about that at this point. Then he asked, do you have a large amount in there? She says no. He says, if you did, I would say put it where family could get access to it. Either put them as joint account holders or something where if somebody needs to get access to it, they can do that for you. She says, okay. They say goodbyes. He probably expects at some point she's going to be arrested. He doesn't want to get caught in a conflict of interest. At this point, he's been retained for Sigfredo, not Katie. But Katie just needs this constant reassurance from this man, and he's just not giving it. I mean, he's very frank with her. It's almost like Katie is giving off this vibe that she's the only person to have ever been in this situation. But in this call, you really start to hear his frustration and just wanting to get off the phone with her. And she's got a million questions. Now, that same day, Sigfredo's attorney calls her. He tells her that they dropped the cocaine case at 5:00 on Friday. He said, of course, they didn't tell us. By the way, that Friday would have been May 27th. We're still on May 31st. He said they're not even bringing Sigfredo to court this morning. They took it off the docket and he's clear to go to Tallahassee. Katie said that's what she had read. And then she says, how come you didn't know? He said, nobody told me. He said, we set the judges, we set the hearings. So unless it came up on the computer, nobody told me anything, but that's fine. As far as I know, he's still here. He asked when the last time she talked to him. She says yesterday. Mr. Lewis says that he's going over there now. He wants to make sure that Sigfredo's still in Miami. He said that they knew either they would drop it or release on recognizance. Katie says, well, I thought they would notify you before. He says they don't have to, especially when they drop it on Friday at 5. She says they don't have to. He sounds irritated. He says, no, they don't have to. They don't have to notify anybody when they drop a case. They just drop it. And Katie says, wow. He says, we knew it was going to happen, so don't be all surprised. He said, let me go over to see him. We know he's going to be going to Tallahassee pretty quickly, so let me work too. And then she interrupts. And then he keeps going and says, let me work with Hollandale to see what's going on with that money and what else. Katie says, when you see him, if I can go in his account because he got paid. He said, oh, get his PIN number for that. And Katie says she thinks she knows it. Then she asks if she's allowed to go in and do that. He says, I think if you have the PIN number, you go to an ATM. She says, what I'm saying is to release his whole wallet to me. He has the card. The attorney says that he'll see. He said, as opposed to taking his property in Tallahassee, which he has no need for it there, I'll tell him to go ahead and sign it out to you over here. Katie said, yeah, release it to me so at least I have access to the card. She said, I guess get the sign in and the password for his credit card. So he repeats that and says, let me ask him all these things. I'll call you when I get out of the jail. She said, if anything, would it be possible to come by the office later? He says, of course, later today, I think you'll want to come by. He said, let's plan on around 3. Well, she asked, what about a little bit sooner? Because she has to make it on time to get her son. And today he was already super late because of traffic. So she said, probably like 1:32. He says he has hearings starting at 1:30. And that's the thing. You could be sitting here for a while. What about after you pick up your son later today? And she says, later today? After I pick him up? Okay. He said, at this point now, I want to go ahead and introduce you to this other lawyer that I know, just so you'll know his face and everything. She says, you'll be able to do that for me? And he says, yeah, you're going to have to pay him. He's not going to work without being paid. And believe me, you need somebody right now, because as soon as he goes to Tallahassee and I start focusing on that case, I really got to stop talking to you. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to continue to put pressure on you to become a witness. He said, it makes it very difficult for me to represent you both at the same time. Katie says, okay, wow, I didn't know that. He said, we had this conversation that I'm going to get you another lawyer, remember? You got to pay him. He's not working for free. I mean, he'll do it for you for cheap, but you got to give him at least $1,000. Katie says, okay. Now, guys, you can really tell it got real for her right here. She said, try to get that because I'm kind of, like, I don't know. Try to get how they're going to release that to me, especially in Hollandale. He says, I'm going to have to get a power of attorney for them to be able to release it to someone other than him. So all this is going to take a few days to get done. So what I'm saying is don't count on that $5,000 by this afternoon because it's not going to be there. It's going to take a couple of days. She says it's going to take a couple of days. She exhales and says, okay. She says she's trying to take care of that situation with and then she says, what I lost? The card. He says, the license? Yeah, you got to have a license because you won't be picking up nothing from nobody without an ID. She says, exactly. She says she'll figure that out. She says as soon as she's finished with this, she'll give him a call because she's driving and she can't even think right now. He says, okay, I'll call you when I'm out of the jail too. There's thank yous and bye-byes. These calls with the attorney are so telling. When you listen to Katie's voice, it's gotten very real for her. And the attorney's not sympathetic. That's not his job. Katie's not the first person to be in this situation where it's unknown if she's going to get arrested. She's not the first significant other that has a partner who's been locked up for very serious charges. And the attorney's just not a therapist. And he's not somebody that's going to sit there and reassure her that everything's going to be fine because he knows probably in the back of his mind it's not going to be fine. It's a matter of time before she's arrested. The next day, June 1st, what happens? The FBI shows up at the Adelson Institute asking for employment records for Katie. Erica, who works the front desk, she worked the front desk from 2013 to 2016, testified at Charlie's trial. I have that call here now. So I'm going to play that for you. Tell me what you think in the comments about Charlie's voice. We've heard him on the jail calls. I think in this call, much like the call with Katie and the attorney, it's hitting Charlie that it's getting real. And even though Charlie wouldn't be arrested for several years, this was 2016, he was arrested in 2022, he has to know it's getting real fast when the FBI shows up at your dad's work and wants employment records on the common thread. Katie Magbanawa between Charlie and the hitman. So let's listen to that call now.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, the FBI is here asking for records for Katie.
For what?
That she works here.
I would. I wouldn't give anything.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
They asked, did she work there? I was like, yeah, she works there, but I don't know what you want. Because remember we sent that.
Erica.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. I'm not there right now, and I'm in surgery. But it's not my office. It's my dad's office. So I can't give anything out.
Right.
So I don't have access to it. I don't know where anything is.
Okay.
So you don't have access to anything. So
I don't know where anything is either.
Yeah. So I would do this. I would not. I would not speak to anybody. You can do whatever you want, but I don't. It's my dad's office.
Yeah.
So I don't have access to any of that stuff.
Okay.
So they can talk to my dad, and I'm sure they'll be able to get whatever they want from them.
Okay, understandable.
So if I had it, listen, you can talk to whoever you want. I shouldn't say don't talk to anybody.
No, I'm going to do whatever you tell me.
Yeah, no. I'm not. I shouldn't say don't talk to anyone. Talk to whoever on the planet you want to talk to. But it's not my office, and it's not your office.
Right.
So you don't have records to give them, and I don't have records to give them. So I'm sure they'll be able to help them out in any way they can.
Okay. So that's what I'll tell them.
Tell them that it's not, it's not my office. The office was sold back to my dad actually a long time ago. So tell them that so it's actually, you're talking to the wrong Dr. Adelson.
Right.
So what you need to do is tell them that you will get in contact. Tell them, it's not your office. You can't get out records.
They said within 20 days of the Florida statute, provide above cause with reason.
Are they there now, or do they just stand?
They're there, but I'm in the back. They're just waiting for me to come back.
Oh, and they want records?
Yeah.
Do me a favor. I'm going to call you from a landline on your cell phone, okay?
Okay.
All right, bye.
So Charlie's learned to play the game at this point. I'll call you on a landline on your cell phone, both of which aren't being tapped. You hear a speechless Charlie, which is something we don't hear very often from Charlie Adelson. It's just that panic moment of not really planning for this, not knowing it was going to happen, and not knowing what to do. And he puts Erica in the middle. Just, tell him this, don't do that, don't talk. And then he says you can talk to whoever you want to, because the FBI's listening and he knows that at this point, or he assumes it. I just thought that was a very interesting call. The same day, Katie has a conversation with her landlord. Katie said she wanted to call earlier, but she was busy with the kids. She says she's trying to sell everything she has in the house, but unfortunately, she won't be able to do that in 2 days. She asked if she can get more help over the weekend to take everything out and also to clean, and asked if he could take that out of her security deposit. He says, you gave me 1 month's rent and 1 month security deposit. Katie said, I tried to remember. I was under the impression it was first and last month's rent as well as the security deposit. He says, no, you never gave it to me. I asked you for it. You didn't have it at the time. So I'll let you in with the 1 and 1. He said, I have a copy of the lease. I'll let you see it. He said, I wouldn't mislead you. You know that. She says, I know. I've always been on time. I have a lot on my plate right now, so I have to figure it out. She said, that's why I had recommended your place to somebody who potentially wanted it and told her to contact you so that you can have a tenant. He said, the first thing is you had security. You didn't have the last month's rent. He asked how much time she needs to get her things out. She said at least until the weekend. She doesn't have help during the week because everybody is working. This is on June 1st of 2016. That would have been a Wednesday. She's asking for another 4 days to get this done. He asked her if she's still working at the same place. She says she is. He tells her he's heard what's happened from different people, and he tells her it's not her fault. She doesn't have any control over someone else, unfortunately. Can you imagine what people like him thought when it came out that she was arrested and she was the middle woman in all this? But he said he'll have to prorate the rent from the first until she moves out because she's breaking the lease. And then he said, we'll have to see if these other people are going to take it. He said he'd have to interview them anyway. And he says not to let the association know that the possible tenants are her friends. They told him that her ex-husband was always yelling and fighting with you. He said, it's none of my business. You were always nice to me. It's a shame these things are happening. He asked her where she's moving to. She says, I don't even know. She says she'll figure that out as she goes, but right now, let's just figure out what I need to do for the rent. He said, just go ahead and pay for this month's rent. She laughs and says, well, that's the problem. I'm up to my head with payments for other stuff. I can't do that. That's why if it's possible, you have my deposit, and then at least whatever you think needs to be saved, just take it out. But if you can just give me at least until the weekend when I can have help to get everything out. He says, we'll figure it out. I understand your situation. Katie says, I just don't need the negativity, and I think it's inappropriate. Now's not really the time to say things like that. He said, I'm not interfering. I just feel bad for you and your kids. You're good people, and it's unfortunate. He said there's speculations. I don't know anything that went on. And he said he received a quote from the president. And I said, I didn't rent it to this man. I don't know him. I rented it to Katie, and that's it. So you see, the association probably just doesn't want anything or anybody to do with Katie and Sigfredo to move in that townhouse. Katie said she knows that. She said, I keep in contact with her and I handle all the situations that happen. He said, okay, so by this weekend, he said he would meet with her friend tomorrow. He hopes everything works out for her. He says, don't forget, in the end, you have to pay your water bill to the city of Miami. And she says she will. She says she doesn't like having outstanding bills. He said, we'll get it together and thanks for calling. The next call is with Katie and Sigfredo's mom. Still on June the 1st, 2019. Katie asks what she's going to do with all the kids' stuff. She says there's furniture that needs to be taken out and the backyard is a mess and it needs to be cleared out. Sigfredo's mom says, well, I don't know. Let me see what I can think of. Katie said it all needs to be done by tomorrow because I have to clean it so I can get that money back. Sigfredo's mom asks, well, what's she going to do with all of her stuff? And Katie says, I don't know. I have to figure that out. She asked Katie to give her a picture to send to someone named Diana. Katie says, I sent that a long time ago. His mom says, no, you didn't. Katie says she'll send it to her again, but she sent it to her after they spoke earlier in the afternoon. His mom said she'll get the photos to this person. Katie asked if she'll be able to come with her tomorrow and at least figure out to do with all the stuff. She said, I have to get everything out. She said, I'll try to get a U-Haul and stick everything in it. But she said she needs to get all the guys she knows to help, which is more stuff I have on me. She said, nobody else can do it. Money-wise, it's me. The kids, obviously it's me. His mom says, I know it's hard, Katie. And Katie says, but it seems like every talk I have is a fight instead of like, can I help you? Katie's just talking over his mom. She starts talking about her landlord and says, I'll talk to him. That's fine. I'm getting another person to go in for him. It's making his life easier. My friend already called him. He said he wants to meet her. Why would he have a problem with another person? Sigfredo's mom asks if the friend said that you sent her, and Katie says, of course, I'm pretty sure she did. But what does that have to do with another person? Katie's still talking over his mom. It's really hard to hear what's said here because Katie's talking over Sigfredo's mom. Sigfredo's mom says the landlord told her something, and Katie says, I don't know why he would say that. That's very rude to say. Sigfredo's mom said, especially what he told me about his neighbors calling him and saying they know what happened. And I told him, look, the media sometimes say things that aren't true. Katie says, yeah, that's not even none of his business. That's something you shouldn't even have to discuss with him. Sigfredo's mom says, I didn't discuss it with him. I told him. He asked me if I was family, and I said no, because I didn't want him questioning me. Katie says, it's so ridiculous, whatever. Will you be able to help again tomorrow? His mom says yes, and Katie thanks her. His mom asks what time, and Katie says early. I have to drop my son off and then do that. Sigfredo's mom asks where her daughter's going to be. Katie says she doesn't know. She says she'll probably ask someone if she can stay. I can't have her running around while I'm trying to pack the whole place. Sigfredo's mom said she was going to go tomorrow to the university to try and take the girl to her brother's house. Katie says, I don't know, you can do that tomorrow. They need to get their crap out of the house. I can't even dispose of it in the backyard. Sigfredo's mom says to talk to the landlord and ask if he's going to give back the deposit. Katie said he's not going to give me my deposit until the end. He's going to inspect everything because that's who he is. And I'm pretty sure he's going to cut off like whatever, but I should be getting something back regardless. But if something's wrong, like the sink got messed up or whatever, there's nothing damaged in the house. So I'll probably just have to clean it up. But the main thing is to get everything out, and I need people. That's why I need guys to do things. I can't lift all this stuff. I can box things. His mom asks who she's going to bring, and Katie says, I don't know. I'm in the process of trying to figure that out. His mom says, well, figure it out and call me back. She's over it. She's done. She said, you have until the 3rd anyway. And Katie says, look, it's a timely manner. The 3rd is already on Friday. I got to clear everything out. You got to figure out those kids. Sigfredo's mom interrupts and says, there's garbage. Katie says, I can't throw that out myself. You can't throw it in the backyard. You get fined for that. Do you understand? Little context here. Somebody is homeless that they're about to talk about. They're living in a hotel. They obviously stored things at Katie's house, and of course now it's got to go since she's moving out. Katie says they can't just drop things off at my house and think I'm going to store it for them. Sigfredo's mom says, listen, nobody knew what was going to happen, okay? Katie gets a little smart and says, this is what I'm talking about. Why are you even, oh my God, nobody knows anything. Sigfredo's mom says nobody knew anything was going to happen. And Katie says, okay. But still, they said 2 weeks they were going to have it there. It's been a month, and these two still haven't found a place. Sigfredo's mom kind of gets a little fed up here, and she says, okay, Katie, what do you want me to do? Katie exhales and says, they need to get that out. They're going to have to be there tomorrow. Don't think about Friday. Sigfredo's mom, she's done. She's had enough. She yells, they can't be there tomorrow. They don't have a car. They don't have a place to stay. They're trying to find a place. Katie says, well, what am I going to do? I can't dispose of that stuff. That's another responsibility on top of me. I already did them a favor to keep their stuff there a whole month. Somebody they know needs to drop them off over there. They just need to dispose of it if they can't have it. She says, stop putting more things on me. Sigfredo's mom says, Katie, I'm not putting more things on you. Katie says, everybody's putting crap on me. His mom said, everybody's putting stuff on me. Katie says, I did you guys a favor for having it there. His mom says, you're going to have a truck. We could throw it out somewhere. Katie said, there's nobody here now. Cameron's going to have to come by. He has to get a ride or something. His mom says, he doesn't have a ride. Katie says, you're giving them reasons to, and then his mom interrupts and says, I'm not giving them reasons, Katie. They're thinking about where to be. They don't have a place to stay. They're on the streets. Katie says, you're telling me he can't take a day? His mom says, a day of what? Tomorrow they're getting kicked out of their hotel. Katie said, so it's my job to worry about the disposal of their things. Like I have to worry about you pawning crap. Come on, bro, that's too much. His mom says, let me call. And Katie interrupts and says, you have to be firm with Cameron. Cameron, you have to be at my apartment by 9 tomorrow morning. His mom says, he can't, Katie. Katie says, why not? His mom says, because he has to take care of his kids and his wife that don't have a place to be. He has to figure out where to go. That's why. Katie says, they're not going to kick him out of the place the same day. Sigfredo's mom says, come on. Are you talking about hotels? You mean they don't kick you out? I'm trying to figure it out. She's trying to call me on the other line. Katie says they need to figure it out. They need to get that stuff, okay? His mom says, oh, okay, Katie, bye. End of call. Little context for the next call. I looked at the date that this call was made and looked to see what happened the day before based on what the man who talks to Charlie may be talking about. The judge in Tallahassee signed an order to unseal Sigfredo's arrest affidavit. Not long after that, less than an hour, I believe, Sigfredo made his first appearance in Tallahassee. So all this stuff we pretty much know, but I do want to do what I talked about in the beginning, which is to go through what was being released at the time of these calls, because it gives the context into what everybody associated with this case was learning along with the public about what the police had. In this arrest affidavit, they implicate Rivera, and also publicly, the Adelsons are connected to Sigfredo. For those of you on YouTube, I have this on the screen. You can pause, read along, whatever you want to do. This was posted on June 2nd, 2016 at 9:34 a.m. and then updated at 10:57 a.m. For the first appearance magistrate, defendant Sigfredo Garcia, date of birth, April 27th, 1982, charges murder. Summary of offenses and probable cause affidavit. This affidavit sets forth probable cause to believe that Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera murdered Florida State University law professor Daniel Markel in violation of Florida statute. On Friday, July 18th, 2014 at 11:02 a.m., a report of a shooting was received at the home of FSU law professor Daniel Markel, 2116 Trescott Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. Upon arrival, Tallahassee police officers found Markel slumped over in the driver's seat of his vehicle from an apparent gunshot wound to the head. Markel was transported from the scene to a local hospital where he later died from the injuries sustained during the shooting. The investigation of the crime scene found no indication that this incident was part of any other criminal intent, such as a burglary or robbery. At the time of the shooting, Markel was talking to an individual on his cell phone. The person stated Markel interrupted their conversation, saying someone he did not recognize was in his driveway. The person on the telephone with Markel then heard what sounded like a loud grunt. He heard a muffled conversation in the background, but could not make out the words being spoken. He heard labored breathing, but could not get Markel to respond. Initial investigation at the scene revealed that a neighbor heard what he believed to be a gunshot and looked out the window, where a small silver or light-colored vehicle resembling a Prius was observed backing out of the victim's driveway. The next part, motive for murder. Investigators obtained information from sources that Markel had gone through a bitter divorce with Wendy Adelson, who was also a professor at the FSU Law School. Wendy filed for divorce on Monday, September 10th, 2012. Markel reportedly returned home from a business trip to find his family gone, a majority of the contents of the house missing, and the paperwork for dissolution of marriage displayed on his bed. He eventually learned Wendy and their 2 children had moved to her parents' home in Coral Springs. has Broward County, in parentheses, Florida. Reportedly, Markel protested and Wendy returned to Leon County with the children until legal arguments could be heard. On June 20th, 2013, Leon County Circuit Judge Hobbs formally denied with prejudice Wendy's motion for relocation with the children. Court documents show the divorce was resolved without a trial by a marital settlement agreement and granted by Judge Hobbs on July 31st, 2013. Email evidence indicates Wendy's parents, especially her mother, wanted Wendy to coerce Markel into allowing the relocation to South Florida. Additionally, Wendy's brother, Charles Adelson, reportedly did not like Markel and did not get along with him. On February 14th, 2014, Markel filed a counter motion to enforce the MSA's financial provision and motion for sanctions. Markel claims Wendy and her attorney had not been forthcoming in the MSA regarding her financial assets. On March 26, 2014, Markel filed a counter motion for enforcement of MSA on parenting issues and motion for contempt and sanctions. One of the points of contention in this motion was Wendy's mother, Donna Adelson, and her reported negative interaction with the children. Markel claimed Donna made disparaging remarks about him to his sons. Markel sought relief in this motion by asking the court to prohibit Donna from having unsupervised time with her grandchildren and to impose limitations to prevent the children from being subjected to disparaging comments about their father. These motions were scheduled for a court hearing on May 15, 2014. However, due to substitutions of counsel, the hearing was continued. A new court hearing date had not yet been scheduled prior to Markel's death. Investigators believe motive for this murder stemmed from the desperate desire of the Adelson family to relocate Wendy and the children to South Florida, along with a pending court hearing that might have impacted their access to the grandchildren. The suspect vehicle. This investigation has revealed that Markel left his home the morning of July 18th, 2014, and drove his two young children to their daycare facility on the west side of Tallahassee, approximately 5 miles away, dropping them off at 8:50 a.m. Markel then drove to Premier Health and Fitness Center at approximately 9:12 a.m. Markel arrived at Premier, where surveillance video shows a silver or light green Toyota Prius enter the parking lot after Markel parked his car. After Markel went into the health club, the video captured the Prius in the parking lot where the driver moved the vehicle to different parking positions while Markel was in the building. Markel left Premier at approximately 10:38 a.m. and drove off in his vehicle towards Thomasville Road. The video shows the Prius exiting the parking lot and following the direction of Markel's car. Additional video was discovered for the day of the homicide on the Star Metro City bus camera system. Video was captured from two different buses, one southbound on Thomasville Road and another northbound on Thomasville Road. The bus camera system captured images of what appears to be the same Prius before and after the homicide was committed. Unfortunately, images could not provide the license plate characters of the Prius. After analyzing all the surveillance videos, investigators believe the suspect vehicle to be a 2006 to 2009 Toyota Prius with a silver pine mica print, which appears to be a light green or silver color. The Prius appears to have tinted windows, a SunPass transponder on the top center of the windshield, a missing tow hook cover on the front bumper, and a black passenger side mirror casing. Investigators analyzed the timestamps from the bus camera videos when the Toyota Prius was observed, which confirmed the Prius had the opportunity to be present at the crime scene when the murder was committed. Additional surveillance video was obtained from a bank, a county government facility, and a store along Markel's route the morning of July 18th, 2014, which also shows a similar vehicle trailing Markel's car. Investigators believe the suspects in the Prius followed the victim throughout the morning and back to his residence, where the victim was shot in the head as he sat in his car. The next section is investigation. After the homicide was reported in the press, a resident of the Ashford Club Apartments reported seeing two men parked in a bluish-silver Prius-type car in the southeast corner of the complex parking lot around mid-morning on one of the weekdays immediately before the July 18th, 2014 homicide. The men got out of the vehicle and walked down a park path behind the apartment complex that parallels a large storm drainage ditch. This ditch is at the fenced rear property line of Markel's home on Trescott Drive. The residents described the driver as a white male, tall and slender with a runner's build, fair complexion, wearing a light-colored ball cap. The passenger was described as a shorter man with a stocky build and dark hair with a darker complexion, resembling Italian or Spanish descent. When the two men returned to the car about 10 minutes later, the passenger was carrying an unknown black object in one hand. He was completely wet, as if he fell into the drainage ditch. The driver's pants appeared wet up to the knees. Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera are similar to the physical descriptions given by the Ashford Club Apartments resident. Garcia is taller and slender, and Rivera is shorter and stockier with a darker complexion. As set forth below, evidence establishes that they were in Tallahassee on the day of the murder and that they had rented a silver pine mica Toyota Prius for the trip from South Florida. Both Garcia and Rivera are convicted felons in the state of Florida. The next section is connections to Garcia. Investigators developed information that around the time of the murder, Charlie, Wendy's brother, was involved in a personal relationship with Catherine Magbanawa, whose cellular telephone number was, and they list it. Call records show Magbanawa as one of Charlie's top contacts. Online public database research revealed that this number was utilized by Catherine Magbanawa. Further investigation also revealed that Sigfredo Garcia is the father of Magbanawa's two children, both with the last name Garcia. Magbanawa is also listed as the vice president of S. Garcia Solutions Incorporated, and Garcia is listed as the president of the company on state of Florida records for corporations. The next section, cellular telephone information linking Garcia and Rivera to the murder. Cellular telephone analysis conducted during this investigation has revealed that on July 18, 2014, at approximately 9:36 a.m., the day of the homicide, telephone number, and it gives it, was in the vicinity of Premier in Tallahassee, where the victim was last seen alive. Investigation of that number revealed it was being used by Garcia prior to the murder and had been in contact with Magbanawa's telephone number approximately 2,700 times between May 1st, 2014 and July 19th, 2014, when Garcia's cellular phone ceased activity the day after the homicide. Cellular telephone analysis revealed the other number, which is one of Garcia's frequent contacts, was also in the vicinity of Premier on the morning of the homicide. It was also in the vicinity of Markel's residence twice, the day before the homicide on July 17th, 2014. Investigation shows this phone number was being used by Luis Rivera during the time leading up to Markel's murder. Information obtained from the cellular service provider for Rivera is consistent with Rivera's handset traveling from North Miami to Tallahassee at a time consistent with having committed the murder and then immediately heading back to North Miami after the homicide. Information obtained from the cellular service provider for Rivera's phone and Garcia's phone revealed that the two traveled from North Miami, Florida on the afternoon of July 16th, 2014, and arrived in Tallahassee, Florida just after midnight on July 17th, 2014. A receipt from a motel on West Tennessee Street in Tallahassee shows that Rivera checked in at approximately 1 a.m. on July 17th, 2014, which is consistent with the cellular location data. Both Garcia and Rivera's phones were in the area of the victim's residence during the day of July 17th, 2014. The next section is Prius linked to Rivera and Garcia. Based on the video images of the suspect car with a SunPass transponder mounted on the windshield and cell site data for the locations of phones used by Garcia and Rivera, a subpoena was sent to the Florida DOT for SunPass toll records on Alligator Alley, I-75 west of Fort Lauderdale, on July 16th and 18th, 2015. Only one account listing a Prius as a customer vehicle had a SunPass transponder activity at the Alligator Alley toll booths on those two dates at relevant times. On July 16th, at 2:18 p.m., the transponder registered at the toll plaza in Broward County, westbound on I-75. On July 18th, 2014 at 5:23 p.m., the transponder registered at the eastbound toll facility of I-75 in Collier County near Naples, Florida. Florida DOT shows the subscriber for this SunPass transponder is a rental company in North Miami, Florida. This rental company was contacted by law enforcement and provided several rental contracts around the time of the homicide. These included one for a green 2008 Toyota Prius rented from July 15th through the 21st, 2014 by Luis Rivera, and they list his phone number. The second telephone number was also written on the rental contract, Garcia's phone number, with the word brother written beside the number. The next section is Tallahassee witness. A witness whose identity is known to law enforcement previously met Garcia and Rivera in Tallahassee a month or more before the homicide. The witness's cellular phone was contacted by Rivera's cellular phone on the afternoon of July 17th, 2014. The witness was asked and agreed to rent a motel room on North Monroe Street in the witness's name for Garcia and Rivera on the night of July 17th, 2014. This is consistent with the cellular location data and a receipt obtained from the motel showing a room registered in the witness's name. The witness was able to positively identify both Garcia and Rivera individually in two separate photogenic lineups. The witness recalled Rivera having in his possession a silver finish short barrel revolver handgun the first time he met with Garcia and Rivera, possibly in June of 2014 at the motel on West Tennessee Street. Recovered evidence from the crime scene indicates the caliber firearm used in this murder is consistent with revolver ammunition, and no spent casing was found at the scene. This investigation did not reveal any other legitimate purpose for either suspect to be in Tallahassee at the time of the murder. Next section, cellular data for July 18th, 2014. On the morning of July 18th, both Garcia and Rivera's cellular phones were in the area of Premier during the time when the victim was inside, and surveillance video shows the Toyota Prius in the parking lot. Garcia's telephone ceased activity just before 10 a.m. while in the area of Premier, with the last text message occurring at 9:58 a.m. The next event on Garcia's telephone was text messages and or notifications being received at 12:29 p.m., consistent with the handset being powered up. Immediately afterward, at 12:30 p.m., Garcia placed a call to Magvanawa, which was the first contact initiated by Garcia after the homicide. This call occurred when Garcia's phone was in the area of Lake City, Florida, on or near I-75, approximately 1.5 hours after the shooting was reported. Investigators believe Garcia and Rivera turned their phones off before 10 a.m., committed the murder of Markel at his home on Trescott Drive, and then fled back to North Miami, Florida, via I-10 and I-75. The next section is Rivera's ATM transaction. Analysis of Rivera's checking account revealed an ATM transaction took place on July 18th at 6:46 p.m. as they were returning to North Miami from Tallahassee. Security video from the drive-through ATM lane shows Rivera driving a Toyota Prius up to the ATM at 6:45 p.m. The Prius appears to have tinted windows, a SunPass transponder on the top center of the windshield, a missing tow hook cover, and a black passenger side mirror casing, matching the characteristics of the Prius seen on the video from the northbound bus camera in Tallahassee. Viewing the bank video, Rivera is seen completing the ATM transaction. When he leans forward, Garcia can be seen sitting in the front passenger seat of the Prius. As the Toyota Prius exits the ATM area at 6:47 p.m., a Florida license plate can be seen at the rear of the car. The tag characters appear to match those of the car rental contract. Cellular site data is consistent with this stop at the ATM location prior to Garcia and Rivera arriving back in North Miami. There is no previous contact found between Markel and these two defendants. Therefore, It is the affiant's belief Garcia and Rivera were enlisted to commit this egregious act against someone they did not know and had never interacted with before the murder. On May 24th, 2016, investigators conducted an interview with Garcia. During the interview, Garcia denied ever being in Tallahassee. He stated he had never made any trips with Rivera. Garcia denied any knowledge of the homicide. The proceeding is true to the best of my present knowledge or belief. The last call we're going to play for today is between Charlie and somebody who I believe to be maybe another dentist, one of the offices where Charlie works at.
Hello? What's going on? I really can't talk about anything.
Oh, you can't talk about it. Okay. Are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm actually I'm on my way to work right now. Believe it or not, I got some asshole patient wanting to sue me because he was in pain from his implant. Not that it failed, but he's threatening to sue me yesterday.
That's the least of your problems. Listen, I care about. Obviously, I care about you. We all care about
you. You're the only person I'm calling back. I can assure you.
Okay,
that I'm
care
fine.
About you. We love you. We didn't sleep. We didn't sleep all night. Okay.
It's yeah.
You can't. I know you can't answer.
You read.
Okay, I have to ask you a question. This is a business question. Okay,
yeah.
Don't take it personally, but I have to know because it's business.
Do you realize that? You realize that there's a very good Marvin. This phone. If anything, let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
Anything that you would not want the FBI to be listening to, don't say it on this phone.
Okay. All right. I'm asking you a professional question.
Yeah. Anything.
You're supposed to work June the 15th.
Yeah, I'm coming in early. I'm coming at 9 that day.
You're going to be able to work.
I worked 12 hours of surgery yesterday. 12 hours.
You read stuff, and
they can read. They can write whatever they want to write. It's a free country, and it's fantastic. They can do that.
Okay. All right. So I should. Again, this is purely business, and I'm not trying to.
I'm coming in early.
You're going to be in the 15th, and everything's cool.
At 9 o'clock, and then I'll be
all right. I'm not going to call you. I won't call you again. I'll tell Maddie not to call you.
Call me anytime. I
think Diane and Craig are going to show up at your house today. They're supposed to work on your pool or something.
Yeah. No,
you might need to call Craig and.
Yeah, Craig just texted me to call me. I'll call and talk to him. I just practicing with.
I just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine, and I've got scheduled to be in my office after that.
All right, we'll see you the 15th.
You can call me.
I love you, Charlie. I love you, Charlie.
I love you too. You well, okay?
Bye.
Come on, the guy sounds really nice. All right. Little did he know. So what else happened on this day? There was a press conference that same day that this was unsealed. Tallahassee police gave the press conference to discuss the facts and answer some questions. During the press conference, police say that the Adelsons aren't talking to police. He said, we aren't on speaking terms right now. WTXL sent emails to the mayor of Tallahassee as well as city commissioners. City manager Rick Fernandez responded and said that the unsealing of that affidavit was highly unusual and they don't know who requested the release and they were not given a chance to challenge it. WCTV put out an article with reactions from Dan's neighbors after that affidavit was released. Now, remember, these neighbors know Wendy. A lot of them do. It's not the neighborhood that people move in and out of. People seem to stay put there from what I've heard. It says some folks were really surprised, while others say they had a feeling something like this would be the final outcome. They're reacting to the news that this may not have been a random act of violence. One neighbor told the news outlet, that was the first thing that went through my head because he was going through a divorce. Another neighbor said, I don't think anyone in the neighborhood would have ever expected something like this to happen. It was a real shocker, and to think it was a for hire. The article says even more shocking allegations in court papers say the family of Markel's ex-wife had a relationship with the suspect. Speaking about the custody battle that was going on when Dan was killed, one neighbor said, the kids are the victims now. They're the true victims. We'll have to find out about the wife and everything down the road. So that's it for this episode. Oddly satisfying to see the chaos surrounding Katie and Charlie at this point. All right. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Saturday. It's officially Saturday at 12:30 a.m. We'll see you soon.